Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. We're back again with another Tom Delonge Strat video. This time we're going to take a look at some of those quality control issues that seem to have been popping up with this guitar. I've had this a couple of weeks. Am I going to keep it or am I going to return it? Let's get into that. But before we get into all of that, guys, I need to ask you a favour. My channel is currently sat at about 420 subscribers. I really want to get this channel up to 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and I need your help to do that. So if you're not already subscribed, please do take a moment to subscribe. And if you are already subscribed, share the video with your friends, get them to subscribe too. Do what you can to help me out, that'd be really appreciated. Cheers. So if you've been paying attention to this release, the Tom Delonge Signature Strat, you may have seen some negative posts here and there, predominantly Facebook groups and Reddit and what have you, about quality control issues. Now, mine did have a few small issues, and I covered that in my review. You can check the review video out up here. There was a couple of things, and I'll try and get them all on camera for you. We'll get you some close-up shots, but it's got a tiny little blemish along here, which is almost like a little green line. It's so faint that you can barely see it, to be honest. One of the main things I called out in my review were issues with the frets. So these seem to have been spot leveled here and there, and they're not crowned particularly well. So, down on the kind of lower part of the fretboard towards the high string end of the fretboard, we had some pretty flat looking frets, and you can see it on the kind of side of the fretboard. If you look at the top of the fret, you can see it's kind of doesn't really come to a point in places. It's not great, but that is, a fixable issue. So the saddles, I mentioned that I had a couple of nicks, and again, get you some close-up shots, but particularly on the G string saddle, there's a big chunk almost taken out of it. I mean, it's right at the back. It's pretty small, to be honest. It's definitely not something that would make me return the guitar, because it's the kind of thing that could happen in playing quite easily anyway. But it's something to note that, something to look out for if you're looking at, quality issues overall. I had a weird brown stain on the last fret marker. Now, I took a bit of wet and dry to that and just sanded it away, and, you wouldn't know it was there now. It's completely gone. But again, not ideal, right? One thing I did mention as well is that the truss rod was extremely stiff. When I was trying to do an adjustment when I was setting the guitar up, I had to put the truss rod key in kind of the wrong way, so you should really put it with the long part of the key down into it and then twist at the top, just to avoid kind of damaging anything. But I just couldn't get the leverage I needed that way, and I had to put it in with the kind of short part of the key in there and then twist it. And unfortunately that meant that I've kind of scraped up the lacquer and the plastic a bit around the truss rod nut. That's something I did, but probably wouldn't have done if the truss rod had been a bit easier to move. I mean, truss rod worked, that's the main thing. I was able to set it up as I wanted, but yeah, something to bear in mind as well. I also mentioned a couple of minor paint issues, and it's something that I think you see quite a lot on these kind of thick poly finishes, particularly in the kind of tight spots around here in the horn. You kind of sometimes get a bit of an uneven look. It's just such a plasticky kind of finish that I don't know if it's just the way that the paint goes off, or I don't really know, but it just can look a little uneven in places. More paint issues, a bit of what looks to be overspray right in the neck, right in the corner of the neck pocket there. It's like a bit of unfinished yellow just on the very corner. I did think it initially looked like a touch-up, like where, a bit of paint had chipped away, but I don't think that is what it is. I do think it's just overspray, because I've had the neck off and you can see that there's yellow in the neck pocket as well. And that kind of went along the top of the heel as well, almost. And I found a lot of that just kind of wiped away, which was a bit strange, but again, it's not a major issue for me anyway. I've got a spot along here where you can kind of see some very, very light, I wouldn't call it scratching, but it's like, I guess it is scratching, but it's a kind of scratches where it's been buffed, but it hasn't been buffed enough. Again, you can only see it under a very, very bright light in a specific angle. It's not something that's kind of visible just looking at the guitar, and I'm probably not going to be able to show that on camera, but Again, it's just a bit of a finishing thing. And the last problem was neck alignment. So I watched the Agufish video where he got his guitar direct from Fender, and immediately you noticed he had massive neck alignment problems. Now I hadn't noticed anything like that on my guitar until I watched that video, and I went back to mine and I'm like, oh, I had the same problem. So my low E string was kind of hanging too far over, and I'll try and put some clips in from the video. I have fixed it since, so I'm not going to be able to show you it now, but I'll try and find a good shot, see if I can put that in there. So you basically had it where the low E string was too far over. It wasn't quite hanging off the edge of the fretboard, but it was close. And then the high E string was just too far in. For me, it was a simple fix. I've had that issue before, not because the guitar came like that before, but you know, I've had the neck off my USA Strat several times over the years to make adjustments and what have you. And one time I noticed that the string alignment was out, and it was a simple case of just loosening the screws, adjusting the neck, tighten it back up again. Now this obviously came with the neck misaligned, as did Agufish. His one. Mine, I've been able to get it back into alignment and it looks pretty spot on, but I did have to kind of shim the neck a little bit. When I say shim the neck, I don't mean I put a shim under the neck to change the pitch or anything like that. I put it in this gap between the top of this side of the neck, the base side of the neck, and the neck pocket. It's just a tiny bit of folded over wet and dry paper. I just kind of played around till I got it in position, and then tightened everything up, and it's held it right there. That does mean I've got an ever so slight gap here, but it's not significant. I've certainly seen worse. But yeah, it's not great. It's not ideal. I had to shim it because when I tried to just kind of loosen it off, adjust it, tighten it back up, I found that it was being pulled right back out of alignment every time. So without the shim, I couldn't get it to sit in the right position when I tightened it back up. A couple of other things I've seen on Facebook groups, Reddit, that kind of thing. Things like dings in the actual paintwork, so not just kind of weird kind of blemish bits, but actual full-on dings. I've seen someone had one on a headstock as well. Yeah, just, I mean, that kind of thing, it's not great. I probably would be returning if I had a massive ding like that. Someone even had the incorrect neck plate, so this has obviously got a special Tom Signature alien thing on this neck plate. Someone just had a plain neck plate. I mean, that's pretty bad. I don't know how you missed that. Other things, people have had them arrive with the pickups kind of not properly mounted, so like one screw's been completely disconnected. So, you know, all sorts of things like that, really. Well, my take on all of this is that, you know, Fender has sold a hell of a lot of these. I mean, I don't have any numbers. I doubt we'll probably find out any numbers, but they've clearly been very, very popular. Lots of websites sold out. I think Fender sold out of them and are back ordered for months on end. I think it's safe to say the guitar itself has been a pretty big success for Fender. So that means that there's a high volume of them out on the market. And one thing you always find with complaints about problems with guitars or really anything is that, you know, the people that have had issues are the vocal ones that are on forums and on groups and what have you, on Reddit, posting about bad quality control issues. Now, that's not to downplay quality control issues. Obviously, I've had my own share of issues with this guitar, but I think you have to take a step back and look at the bigger picture. Fender sell, I don't know how many guitars, got to be hundreds of thousands of guitars, right? And this is a model that sold a huge number of guitars in a very short period of time, so there's a lot of them out there, a lot of people posting. I think if we have figures from Fender, they would probably be telling us that the return rate is no higher than a normal run of guitars. Now, again, I don't know that for a fact, and I'm not a Fender apologist. You know, I think if you've got a guitar that you're not happy with, you absolutely should get in touch with Fender, get in touch with the retailer that you bought it from, and get it sorted out. Another key thing that people keep calling out is, you know, for the amount of money this costs, you should be expecting a lot more. And, you know, we talked about the price in the previous video, so I won't go too much into that. But again, I think what you've got to remember is that the prices haven't gone up necessarily because the quality's got better. Now hear me out. What I mean by that is that the prices of guitars have gone up predominantly due to inflation. Just because we're now seeing prices in the kind of £1,300 mark for these guitars doesn't mean that anything's necessarily changed at the factory level. So guitars made in the Mexico factory haven't suddenly got exponentially better because they now cost more money, you know, and I think it's unrealistic to expect that. You know, the price has gone up predominantly due to inflation, and I'm sure there's a little bit of profiteering in there as well, of course. That's probably a bit of a controversial thing to say, but I think it's true, you know, and there are plenty of other guitars that you could spend that kind of money on and probably get a better instrument. I'm not debating that. I think it's just the nature of buying Fender guitars these days, and it's a difficult one. You know, I love Fender guitars. I'm probably not going to stop buying Fender guitars. It's just something I think that we either have to accept or, you know, vote with our wallets, right? Well, I teased it at the beginning of the video. Will I be returning this guitar? Well, I say no. So yeah, it's had small issues, but honestly, I think there's a tendency to kind of add all of those small issues up into one bigger issue. And really, if you look at this guitar, if you were just an average person picking this guitar up, you wouldn't see any issues with it at all. And for me, the issues it does have are quite small and insignificant in the grand scheme of things. I really love the way it feels and plays. I'll probably get the frets sorted out at some point. There's always a risk with these things, you know. You might return it and then get one that you're less happy with. You know, I really like the fretboard on this, for example. Maybe I return it and get a replacement and the fretboard is much lighter, or, you know, I don't know. It's just maybe it has more issues on the paint that I find distracting or something. So it's just, for me, I'm more than happy with it and I'm going to keep it. Well, guys, thanks again for watching. And if you made it all the way to the end, you know, you're a legend. Thank you. Again, I'm going to ask, if you're not already subscribed, please do consider subscribing. I'm trying to get to that 1,000 target I've set myself. If you are already subscribed, share the video with your friends, like the video, all of that stuff. Be really appreciated. Let me know, have you got one of these? Have you had any quality control issues? Did you return your guitar? Are you keeping the guitar? I want to hear more about it in the comments, so let me know. Well, thanks again, and I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.